If you've seen my Saw retrospective video, you know that I'm a pretty big fan of the franchise. And even though I do admit that a lot of these movies are pretty bad, the constantly evolving and hilariously convoluted storyline was what kept a lot of people, including me, hooked through each of the first 7 films. As you can imagine, I was pretty disappointed with the last reboot because it both didn't connect to the previous 7 movies, nor did it do anything new to warrant reviving the series in the first place. So when Spiral was announced, I was a little bit more hopeful for something fresh and interesting, mainly because this movie looked better, it had a more star-studded cast, it had a different name, and it was spearheaded by Chris Rock, who apparently is a huge Saw fan. Unfortunately though, this movie is yet another mediocre Saw sequel, and it sucks to say that because I can see the potential in what they were trying to do here to make it stand out amongst the other sequels. For instance, Chris Rock's character is actually given a lot of backstory, which surprised me because in a lot of these movies, let's be honest, the protagonists are pretty disposable. So I was happy to see that they were actually trying to do some character work here. They set up this interesting dynamic with his dad, played by Sam Jackson, but the problem was that a lot of it is told through these random flashbacks, and the two barely interact during the current events of the movie. They do this with a lot of characters actually, and it comes off as pretty lazy storytelling. It's as if all of the actually interesting stuff that has happened between Chris Rock and all the other characters occurred before this movie. The plot also tries to pull a Jordan Peele and have some social commentary, which is pretty bold for a movie like this, but I felt that the over-the-top tone made it harder to take those deeper themes seriously. Spiral in general feels like a film that just doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like on one hand it wants to be a serious crime drama like Seven that has something to say about society, while on the other hand it wants to be just another Saw sequel. In a way, it almost feels like if you took the traps out of the plot, you wouldn't even be able to tell that it's a Saw movie. The biggest problem I see with it though is its story structure. After the first act, the movie starts to feel really repetitive in that someone gets kidnapped, they get put in a Saw trap, they die, and then the main characters go to investigate it. And this happens constantly, and it never feels like the investigation is getting closer to a resolution. In screenwriting terms, you could say that Spiral lacks a strong midpoint. This is the point in a film where there's a shift in the story's dynamic, the stakes are raised, and the main character becomes more of an active participant in the story than a passive one. This is why I feel like the last few scenes are the best parts of the movie, because that's when you actually see Chris Rock's ideologies get challenged, and the movie begins to copy the structure of the big twist endings you see in most Saw films. But then again, it's kind of offset by the fact that the twist in this one is really easy to predict. So yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a 6 out of 10. It's still pretty entertaining to watch, and as a fan, I'm still down to see a sequel because I like the creative direction they're going with, and I feel like if they just got better writers, we could see a Saw movie that brings back the magic of the first film. Now, if I had to think of ways to revive the series correctly, I would say that they need to take more risks in the storytelling, and they also need to look back at the first film to see what worked there. For one, with the protagonists, they need to keep trying to develop them and have us actually care about the people who are in the traps. Maybe actually allow some of them to survive so that there's more tension and surprise during those scenes. I also miss the puzzle escape room vibes of the old movies. It was always cool watching the characters actually having to figure out what to do to survive when Jigsaw gave them clues to his games. And last but not least, they need to write up a villain that's just as cool as John Kramer. I feel like Hoffman kind of fit that bill pretty well, so I'm surprised they never thought to bring him back in these new movies. But if they wanted to make a new villain, I would say that they need to create a character that is both just as menacing as Kramer, but unique in their own way. Maybe instead of being a clever, calm dude, it's a guy who's more unpredictable, kind of like Tuco from Breaking Bad. Maybe instead of keeping them hidden until the end, make them an active antagonist during most of the movie, kind of like how John was actually present with the cops during the entirety of Saw 2. The reason why I hype up Saw 1 so much is because it's the only one that excels in all the areas that I'm mentioning. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Spiral and the franchise as it stands now. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more videos like these, and comment below your thoughts on Spiral. Do you think they should make a sequel, or do you think the franchise should just die at this point? See ya.